everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing a very highly requested video. This has been asked for by many people, and that is a video on advice for new teachers or up-and-coming teachers. When you're first graduating from college and you're about to go into the classroom, you're going through a lot of feelings. One, you're thrilled that you're finally done with college. Second, you're excited that you're finally going to be a teacher. And third, it can be a little scary. I remember when I first got hired in, it was like, yes, I am a teacher. Oh my God, what do I do now? It can be a little overwhelming and you second guess yourself. But I think the first point of advice I want to give you is to just take a breath. You're going to be fine. Seriously, a lot of times what new teachers lack in experience, you guys will make up for with just pure enthusiasm and desire to do a good job. Passion can really take you a long way. And if you're really passionate and really excited to finally be in a classroom, that will carry you through that first year. It really will. The second advice I have for you is to make nice with the school secretaries and the custodial staff. I cannot underscore this enough. The secretaries and the custodians, if you get on their wrong side, they have the ability to make or break your first year. A lot of times, yes, every building has a principal, but between me and you, I've had 9 principals over the course of my career, but I've only had 2 secretaries. A lot of times the secretaries are going to be there long after a principal has come and gone. They're running the show. Between you and me, the secretary is often running the show. She's the person who's going to break in the new principal when he arrives or she arrives. So seriously, the first chance you get to bring that secretary a package of homemade cookies as a thank you for her help during your first week, do it. Butter that lady up. She can be your best friend and your greatest asset in your school. Okay. Third piece of advice is find a mentor teacher. When I first hired in, I was really lucky to meet a teacher. Her name was Gail Masters, and she was a phenomenal teacher. I had the utmost respect for her, and boy, did she help me out. No matter what I had a question for, Gail, how do I do report cards? Gail, what forms do I turn in? Gail, how do I write up an IEP? How do I refer a child? She was there for me, and she was always very patient and very kind, and I owe a big debt of gratitude to her because she basically held my hand my first year and guided me through the ups and downs of teaching. She was a great resource, and I highly recommend finding that mentor teacher. Odds are very high that if you're a brand new teacher, your principal or someone in admin is going to assign you a mentor teacher, and that can be a really wonderful thing. It can be, but usually I've noticed that new teachers will bond with someone else in the building. And it's not that the mentor teacher is not good for them, it's just, people connect for whatever reasons. So yeah, find someone in the building who's going to have your back. That is always a really good thing. Someone who will help you get through the computer programs and help you when you forget your password to the whatever thing you're trying to log into. Find a mentor. Fourth piece of advice, and this is one that burned me many times. Don't disrespect anyone out loud. Maybe there is a teacher that you work with who you think should have retired 10 years ago because they have burnout. Maybe there's a coworker that you have that, for whatever reason, you just don't like that person. For the love of God, keep those thoughts to yourself. Go home, complain to your mother. Go home, complain to your sister, your spouse, your boyfriend, complain to your best friend, but do not complain to other coworkers because, how do I put this? Basically, most teachers, especially in elementary, are women. And I'm sure you have watched The Real Housewives of New York and The Real Housewives of Orange County, and you've seen a lot of shows where you put a lot of women together. Well, some women really like drama, okay? And yes, I am a woman. I know I'm insulting our kind, but it's true. Some women really like drama, and they will say one thing to your face, and the minute you turn your back, they are running to tell so-and-so that you just said blah, blah, blah. And now, oh my gosh, the gossip's going through the entire building. You haven't seen a grapevine until you have seen the grapevines that can go inside of a school building. So yes, any negative comments you have about someone, even if you think, oh, this person would never repeat what I'm going to say. You know what? If you're a first-year teacher or a second-year teacher, you don't know those people like you think you do. You know, maybe you think that Mrs. Jones is your best friend and she's going to keep your secrets. You don't really know that because you've only known Mrs. Jones for a couple of months. So the first year or two, really keep those negative comments to yourself and try to stay above the gossip if you can. It will make your life much easier. And I am speaking from a place of real experience. In my early part of my career, my mouth ran away with me on more than one occasion, and I got called to task for it. And let me tell you, you will feel really, really humiliated when you are suddenly called to the principal's office with a union rep and the other teacher, and you have to defend yourself for why you said such and such. Oh, don't do that to yourself. Seriously, you don't need those kind of nightmares. You really don't. Okay. Next thing I want to talk about is to try to deal with most discipline problems in your own classroom. This goes back to creating that tone, and I'll link that video down below, but I'm not going to go back upon that subject because it's a very big subject. But in your own classroom, try your best to deal with disciplinary issues in your own room. If the child is being argumentative, tell the child, I'm sorry you're upset, but we'll talk about this later. All right, and for some kids, that will work. For some children, you just simply need to let them be. Let them sit and simmer and cool off. Some children just become more agitated if you try to intervene. Some kids just need space. Again, this is something you will get a feel for as the year goes on and you spend more time with the kids. Some kids are looking for a reaction. If you don't give them the reaction, then they just kind of stop what they're doing. But if you are a teacher who sends kids to the office all the time, you know, the slightest infraction and referral to the office, out of the room, you will very quickly become a joke in the office. The kids will come into the office with a referral, and the secretary or the restorative practices person or whoever is in charge of dealing with disciplinary behaviors are just going to roll their eyes, tell the kids to have a seat on the bench for a little bit, and then in about 10 minutes you're going to send them back to the classroom. I try not to send a kid to the office unless it's truly, I've got nothing left. Once a child has done X number of acts of defiance throughout the day and there's nothing I'm saying that's getting through to the child, then and only then will I send them to the office. So the office for me really is a place of last resort. One trick I've learned is to whip out my cell phone and call a parent right there on the spot. My cell phone is actually like my secret weapon with teaching. I will stop what I'm doing. I will call a parent. I will say, hi, this is so-and-so's teacher, and so-and-so's having a really bad day today, and I'm going to pass the phone to him so he can let you know what's going on. And I literally will give my phone to the kid, and they will talk to the parent right there on the spot. Wow, that is a really, really great way of dealing with discipline problems in your classroom. Because usually that will get a kid to just snap out of it and act proper for the rest of the day. It really will. Because yeah, that's pretty powerful. Plus, when you do that, the rest of the class is watching. They are going to see, oh wow, she means business. So yeah, that's a little trick I've learned over the years. Another suggestion I have for new teachers is to buy these books. Seriously, the first one is the Daily 5 second edition. Don't get the first edition. The first edition was a good book, but when they wrote the second edition, they filled in a lot of the gaps or missing pieces of information from the book. So the Daily 5 second edition by Gail Boucher and Joanne Mosser. Oh wow, the Daily 5 changed my life as a teacher. It really did. I have been working in the school system since I was 18 years old. I was a parapro the whole time I was a college student, sub for a year, got contracted, and I've been there ever since. I have taught whole language back when whole language was actually a reading concept. I've taught Orton Gillingham and Project Read. I've done 4 Blocks by Patricia Cunningham. I've taught balanced literacy. The bulk of my career I've spent doing guided reading. I was even a Title I guided reading specialist for 4 years. And I have seen programs come and go, and they all have their positives, they all have their cons, but I have never truly felt like I was a kick-butt reading teacher until I implemented the Daily 5 in my classroom. And I'm going to do a video on the Daily 5 down the road because this is a huge topic. This will probably even be a 2-part video down the road. But it's basically a framework for teaching. And instead of making you accountable for the children reading, it makes the kids accountable. It is a completely different thought process for how you teach reading. Gone are the anthologies. Gone are the 50-minute whole class instructions. Gone is guided reading. Because one of the problems with guided reading is initially guided reading was supposed to be a homogeneous groupings where the kids move up and down through the groups as needed. The reality is your low readers are going to get stuck in that bottom group, and they're going to stay in that bottom group all year long. With the Daily 5, those groups don't exist anymore. There is no high group, low group. Every child is a reader. Whether they're reading at a DRA 6 or a DRA 50, every child in your room is a reader. They have books that are right on their level, that are on target. They're reading independently for once you get your routine going, they'll be reading independently for like up to 20 to a half an hour. And there is no time where a child is sitting there staring out the window going, I can't do this, and I'm just going to tune it out. No, the children are always successful because regardless of their level, they are reading something that they can be successful in. And Daily 5 really changed my life. And one of the first things I will say though is I don't do all 5 rotations. Even the authors of this book, when they wrote the second edition, said they don't even do all 5 rotations a day. It's really not possible because you still have to teach math, science, social studies. So I go through 3 rotations a day, and again, I will do a video explaining how I do the Daily 5, but yes, it's a very short read. I read this book in 2 days. I then reread it like 2 weeks before the school year began just to get it all back into my head. It's only $20 on Amazon.com, and this will quickly become your Bible for reading. And then once you read the Daily 5, you're going to also want to buy the companion book, which is another $20. So for $40, which qualifies for free shipping and handling from Amazon, you'll get both books. This is your focus lessons. So many times as a teacher, you're told that, oh, you're going to do a 10-minute mini lesson and then get the kids working. And you're sitting there thinking, mini lesson on what? Where's the mini lesson? What do you want me to teach? That happens to all of us, especially if you're inexperienced and you're kind of new to this. Well, in this book, this is basically a book of your mini lessons. And although they don't call them a mini lesson, they call it a 10-minute focus lesson. This book is a godsend. It makes life so much easier. And the great thing about this book is it's a book of strategies you're teaching. So even if you're working in a district that does have a mandated anthology, and this is the program you're supposed to be using, these strategies will work with any book that you're reading. Hopefully your district doesn't have an anthology. I know that can be really tough because then it kind of makes your independent reading, your read to self component a little trickier. But you still can work in these strategies with an anthology. You can work in these strategies. My district mandates making meaning. Well, making meaning is a teacher read aloud that teaches strategies. I was able to combine the program into this seamlessly. It worked really, really well. So these books will just make your life so much easier, and it is a balanced literacy approach to teaching. It does teach phonics. It does teach read to self. It has read with a partner, because a lot of times children will learn from each other more than they learn from you. That's just a fact. There's a writing component to it and a listen to reading. So the program covers all aspects of your language arts block, and it really will just make your life so much easier, because one of the best parts of Daily 5 is there are no centers. Honestly, the children are actively engaged in a reading or writing format of some kind at all times, but there's no centers. So you don't have to sit there and run off all these ditto pages week after week that they're going to fill out that you kind of have no intention of checking. You really don't. You don't have to think of all these different games. You don't have to try to monitor behavior at centers where the kids are starting to run a little wild while you're trying to sit at the back table working with a group of 5 kids. And I mean, I've been there. I'm trying to teach these 5 kids how to read this little book, and in the meantime I'm yelling at these kids and I'm yelling at those kids, and the kids at my table really aren't learning anything because I'm spending all my time on behavior issues. So this addresses the behavior issues. This addresses getting the centers out of the room. This will just make your life easier. It really, really will. The last thing I want to talk about before I wrap up this video is lesson plans. And one thing college, I think, really fails to do is to prepare new teachers for writing what I call a usable document lesson plan. Colleges, they want you to know all the theories, and they want you to know all these different components. I remember when I was in college, I would have to turn in like a 2-page document to write all these different factors for a 30-minute lesson that I had to present in front of my professor and the other students in the class. Okay, no teacher in real life is writing a 2-page document for every activity they're doing all day long, 5 days a week. Your lesson plans would be 15 pages long. It would just be insane. So in reality, your lesson plans really need to have 4 components. It needs to have the objectives you're going to cover, the strategies you're using to cover those, and the assessments for how you're going to assess the students that day, and finally, your reference numbers for either the state standards or the Common Core. Those are really the 4 big ones you're going to need in your lesson plans at any given time, unless your school district is asking for something more. Obviously, if administration is saying you have to add 2 more things, then do so. For the most part, those 4 will cover what you need. And I will say this, when you are writing your lesson plans, don't just write math. The students are going to learn to multiply. We're going to do lesson unit 4, lesson 3, and my assessment will be page 89. That's really not enough information. You need to give yourself a little bit more shorthand than that. So maybe you need to write in there that, for multiplication, today we are doing page 89 and 90. We will be doing addition top it, note, I need the dominoes, and just a few other notes to make sure that you really do know what you're doing when you look at your lesson plan book. Some teachers I know say that they don't even use their lesson plan books. They write them solely to turn into the principal and say that they did them. I do though. I look at my lesson plans all day long. I really do. For me, they are a workable document, and it's kind of how I know what I'm doing all day long. So yeah, so you're going to want to learn to do a little shorthand, put in just enough information to keep you on track. And really, that's pretty much all I have to say. One thing I do want to ask before I log out for this video today is, I know a lot of you have questions, and I don't know if I can answer all of them. I'm not an expert. I've been doing this for a while, but I'm not proclaiming to be anything more than just a teacher. But I will say on Twitter, if you want to hashtag Ask Tina Bietler, and so this way I can find your questions. I'm going to let a week go by, and then at the end of the week, I'm going to look at the questions you guys are asking me on Twitter, and I will try to do a video where I do a teacher Q&A. So you ask it and I'll answer it if I can, and if I can't answer it, I will tell you. I'm not sure the answer to that one, but here's a resource you might want to look into. So with that, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me in the future, click the subscribe button, and I will talk to you later.